Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the counselor's office. I've got the wrong headset. I don't know why I keep doing this. But we're going on a trend. That's right, a trend of reviewing Marathon and different people's takes. And we're going on a tour. That's right. We're going on a tour around the gaming sphere from different people from across, different content creators and getting their take and thoughts. People that are pretty critical, pretty, all over the place, some subjective, some more, have some more objective takes, and some that, I just tend to avoid anyone that's literally fondling the balls of Bungie. Like, I have no desire to react to them because they're always going to glaze Bungie and their product, which is why you just never want to trust them. But someone that I feel like has usually generally good takes and is pretty well received, I think, in the gaming sphere, is Legendary Drops. I have not seen this. I saw it while obviously reacting to Marathon. I'm starting to get a lot of these to pop up. I've seen several videos defending Marathon, and it's always just the same like schlop, like people who are like pro for it, but they're not one of the ones that was flown out. They're like Destiny creators. It's so taxing that it's the same argument. And I'll give you like an idea before we jump into this. What's the argument? This game, the hook on this game is the art design. It's made by Bungie. It's going to have raid mechanics, or we haven't seen all the maps, or we've seen gameplay, but you haven't experienced the gameplay. They're going to continue. We got 6 months for them to change things. All this, these are the constant things. And it's like, most people, when they see a release of a game, like when God of War came out, like the revamp of it, people were already sold. Final Fantasy Remake, people were already sold. Hell, Black Ops this past year, people were sold. It is pretty obvious when a game is going to be successful based on its first reveal. And it's usually pretty damning when the majority of the gaming community doesn't like something. So we live in this reality where people are trying to do damage control, especially content creators that are attached to Bungie to the hip. They're absolutely doing damage control, and it's not going well for them. So this Marathon Legendary Drops is not attached to what I know, anything Destiny. So I'm very interested to see his take on the situation. So let's jump in.
Don't make fun of me for the minor sunburn. I looked out the window for 5 seconds and this was the result of it. But it's been wild for me to sit back and watch as people have been visibly confused over the reception of Bungie's upcoming game, Marathon. And I've seen writers, I've seen journalists, I've seen commentators and content creators and fans all sitting back going, I'm just so sick of how toxic things have become. How could you be so critical of something that's not even out yet?
Exactly.
It's almost like we haven't been, for the better part of the last decade, watching as these companies have been torching their reputation at both ends, while also at the exact same time,
holy shit. We're only 38 seconds in, and he is spitting the absolute fucking truth that no one outside of like the main, like you take the main community and then you take the small pocket of people trying to defend a Marathon. This is the most brutally honest truth that fucking no one of them want to listen to.
Handing these players over backwards, taking advantage of them. You want these guys to be optimistic? What?
Again, he's spitting facts. Why are people going to be optimistic with Bungie when they have shown historical disrespect to Destiny and that community? In fact, it is so disrespectful that the player base, this is what it was in Lightfall. And then we have, like, if you scroll down, we can see like the final shape. Is this the final shape? It was in June. It was in June 2024. Or right here. So yeah, June. So you see these massive surges, and it's just this. And it's based on Bungie's treatment of the community. that players are leaving. They don't stick around because they're like, well, this developer doesn't respect me. So, and the fact that they have had massive layoffs. You're talking about the only gaming company that I fucking know that removes paid content that doesn't cancel itself. Like, obviously, like The Crew, Need for Speed, The Crew, the whole game shut down. We're talking about a game that's still functioning, but you paid content and they removed it, saying, you paid for this, you don't get to own it. I know a lot of people are like, you can't use that argument again anymore. You fucking can, because no other game does that, and that's part of their reputation. You're talking about the company that has said, don't over-deliver. That is literally their motto. Velocity over quality. It's all these little points on the graph that the gaming community look at, and they're like, yeah, you kind of are a shitty company. I don't think we want to trust you.
Marathon doesn't have an uphill battle. It has a mountain to climb, and that's not a mountain that the players put there. That's an obstacle Bungie put there.
Absolutely.
It's not that Marathon as a game conceptually can't find an audience. I do think an audience is there for it. How big that is, that's a completely different story. But its biggest issues aren't tied to the game. It's tied to Bungie. So today what I want to do is I want to talk about the negative discourse that's surrounding Marathon right now. I want to talk about why it is the way that it is. I want to talk about how Sony and Bungie have essentially clipped its wings before it can even fly. And I'd like to talk about whether or not Marathon can run or fall flat on its face. Spoiler, it's going to be a little bit of both. Just last week, Bungie finally pulled back the curtain on their upcoming extraction shooter, Marathon, a name that echoes from the depths of the studio's past. For those that are unfamiliar, Marathon wasn't just one of Bungie's earliest projects, it was their beginning. Originally developed for the Mac in the mid-90s,
cool.
The Marathon trilogy gave Bungie its first taste of recognition, but it...
Fun fact for anyone who doesn't remember or doesn't play Destiny, we actually have the Warlock armor of this, and I didn't even realize what it was until just now. That the Warlock armor is literally this. It's from the 30th anniversary Destiny pack, which you have to pay for it, by the way.
It also nearly killed them. One of the games in the series was shipped with a critical error that, no exaggeration, was wiping players' hard drives upon installation. The backlash for this was catastrophic.
Isn't that hilarious? I fucking didn't know this. That even back in 19 whatever, Bungie was still breaking things. They haven't changed. They haven't evolved. Maybe they have evolved. They've evolved, in fact, instead of breaking your PC, they're breaking the actual game itself. Yeah, no longer, guys, we're not breaking your hardware. We're breaking our own game.
Bungie was drowning in returns and on the verge of bankruptcy, and to survive, they ended up cutting a deal with Microsoft, and in exchange for covering the damages, Bungie would develop a new project for Microsoft in their upcoming console, the original Xbox. That project was Halo. So in a way, Marathon was both the origin of Bungie's fame and their near-death experience that then forced them into pivoting into a franchise that made them into legends.
Isn't it interesting that that Bungie has like a history of surviving death? Bungie's literally a cockroach.
Now here we are 3 decades later, they're dusting off that legacy and they're gambling with fate all over again. Now this new Marathon, controversially enough, is set to be a 3-player squad-based PvEVP extraction shooter. Players are going to be taking on the role of runners, humans that have abandoned their mortal bodies for sleek cybernetic shells, chasing fame and fortune across the ruins of Tau Ceti. After a mysterious calamity had wiped out the planet's researchers, corporations had stepped in, sponsoring these runners to come in and scavenge whatever's left. Tech, data, secrets, whatever they can get their hands on. Players are going to battle with hostile AI sentinels, alien threats, and other squads in a race to, well, extract before being wiped out. Bungie has also gone on to hint a little bit more at larger scale events as well. Boss encounters, dungeons, maybe even some Destiny-style raids if we're lucky that might be hiding underneath the surface of this game.
It is so weird that they advertise all of this, and yet when people talk about wanting a single player experience, the developers are like, this is meant to be PvP. This is not PvE. Even some of the content creators like, why not everything has to be PvE? Then why the fuck is Bungie trying to put PvE factors into it? Like, granted, extraction shooters have some PvE, like the bosses, NPCs, and the task like Tarkov. But why do we need raids? Why we need dungeons? Why? It's very counterproductive of what they're saying and what they're doing.
Now, on paper, this should have been a slam dunk. A major studio with one of the strongest FPS pedigrees in all of gaming, reviving a long dormant IP, creating a very distinct looking sci-fi world within a genre that really isn't all that overcrowded. 5 or 6 years ago, I think this would have lit the gaming world on fire, but times have changed, my friends, and this game's reception couldn't have been any colder. Instead of hype, the announcement was met with skepticism, sarcasm, and exhaustion. Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, go ahead and pick your platform. Doesn't really matter where you're looking, because very few players were impressed and even fewer were optimistic. Day over day, as more information has been revealed, the backlash against both Bungie and Marathon has only gotten worse.
Yeah, we've talked about the raid encounters and all that, like, or examples, and that has only pushed people further away because, again, they are like, why don't you make a PvE version? Well, we can't do that. This is PvP. We're not doing any of that. Go play Destiny if you want that. But then why are you bringing in Destiny mechanics like raids and dungeons? Like it's this friction that it's almost like Bungie doesn't know what they want Marathon to be and who it's meant for.
I think the first red flag of this reveal was the genre itself. Marathon is a hero-based extraction shooter. That alone is good.
No. You can't call it hero. The content creators are desperate to tell you it's not a hero.
Some eyebrows. While Bungie definitely has a long history of being praised for its PvP in Halo and Destiny, what's truly made them who they are is their PvE content.
I know I'm stopping a lot, but he mentioned Destiny currently. And if you've ever played PvP, its roots is good, but the problem is the PvP players are never happy. It's not balanced the way that they want. Overall, it's a hit and miss. Like, it's very inconsistent whether it's a good meta, a bad meta. Like, it depends on who you're talking to when you're talking about Destiny with PvP. So I don't even think you could use Destiny PvP as an example because most people have negative things to say about the PvP.
Say what you will about Destiny's monetization and its seasonal bloat. Believe me, we'll talk about that later.
Oh, baby.
But there is a reason why their raids and dungeons are considered the gold standard for MMO-styled action combat. Beyond that, keep in mind that this game doesn't seem to have any narrative and it's not going to feature any type of PvE cooperative modes, yet Bungie has built their entire empire on cinematic storytelling, memorable characters, and finely tuned cooperative play. So this sudden pivot into a genre that appeals to a completely different audience of player,
it's almost like if Bandai Namco decided to, they have this specific formula of like Dark Souls and Elden Ring, and then they decided to do Marvel Rivals. That's exactly what it is. Except it doesn't look like, Dark Souls, or like you'd be like, oh, that sounds badass. No, it looks like Roblox.
Just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It doesn't align with what their audience wants. It feels like trend chasing, plain and simple.
Absolutely.
And on top of that, the extraction shooter genre is brutal. There are really only, 2 success stories that we have: Escape from Tarkov and Hunt Showdown. Nearly every other attempt has face planted after launch because these games are niche by design.
Yeah,
they're not meant to be easily digestible or streamlined experiences. They're very
and that's the point. I know someone's going to be pissed off, and I'm noticing I'm pausing a lot. So if you say it in a comment, I'm just going to delete your comments. I'm already self-reporting myself. I know I'm pausing a lot. I know. He's just delivering things after things that I want to talk about. So, screw you, screw me. Either just, go watch the video yourself. The link is down below. If I see you bitch about it, I'm going to tell you to shut the fuck up and delete your comment. So, sorry. I can be honest with myself. I know I'm pausing a lot. But god dang, he's spitting fire. And I need to roll back because I already lost track of what he said.
They're not meant to be easily digestible.
Okay, yes. The whole point of this being a niche. Yes. Extraction shooters are a niche for the population that plays them. And the reason why they're successful in that niche is because they're set up in a way that those people enjoy it. You're trying to take what's already niche and make a niche of a niche. You're removing all these things that make extraction shooters. And I don't know if he's going to mention it, but the whole, if you go down, you don't actually go down. You have the Fortnite Warzone, like your, last stand. And then if you die, they do Fortnite Apex where they can revive you. And there's it almost felt like the fight was null and void. So you have to hunt down every asshole in that group, which is kind of weird because if you group up, if there's random matchmaking, you group up with someone and then some dude runs off and then that person dies. And then the other players are across the map. If they come back, they can res that guy. And it doesn't make sense to me. It's like, if you die, you should say dead. It removes the point of an extraction shooter. The only thing extraction shooter about this game is that you extract. That is it. Everything else is like Apex, Fortnite, like gameplay wise.
Or streamlined experiences. Their very appeal lies in their punishing loops, the tension, the messiness, the lack of hand-holding. The moment you try to sand off the edges to appeal to a broader audience, you kill what makes these games special. Simplify the loot and the game feels hollow. Add revives and you cut the stakes. Throw in flashy abilities and you undermine player skill. Any of these changes tells fans of that genre that this studio doesn't understand what they're building, and Bungie is already making all of those changes. I mean, case in point, there's no proximity chat in Marathon because according to Bungie, it would be way too toxic. I know
he's going to say the exact same thing as me, or near what I'm saying, but nothing screams this game is set to fail because they're pandering to the most fragile ego people ever. In fact, they are dumbing it down so much that the most casual player can feel good about themselves. Like, oh, I can be rezzed again. I died. Oh, but I have a chance. Oh, guys, I can play the game. I'm so happy. But I don't want people to talk crap about me because it's so hard for me to toggle. Like, this is, to my acknowledgement, this is not being catered to children. Like, I understand if you want to say, well, this is for kids. But what fucking kid's playing an extraction shooter? Fortnite makes sense because it's all cute and, you know, it's meant that way. And there's some badass kids out there who know how to build and do all that stuff. But like extraction shooters, what little Timmy's going to spend $40 to play this when they can play Fortnite for free or Marvel Rivals? Like, if there's no fucking way you can tell me that this is made for a child. So why is it such a big issue to have proximity chat? Because most adults and young adults, 18 up, know how to toggle an on-off button for voice chat. It just doesn't make sense. Plus, and here's another thing someone made a point out, if there's raid mechanics and puzzles, why would you not be able to talk to your team? Or if you're getting a situation where another team rolls up as you're trying to solve the raid puzzle, why wouldn't you try to work with them? Like, hey, dude, let's try to do this. You get some of the loot, I'll get some of the loot, or let's solve this together. We'll fight over the loot afterwards, or whatever. You know, you can have some unique situations, which you see in Tarkov. I have ran into people like, yo, I'm new, I have no idea what I'm doing. And they're like, hey, I'll help you out. And they've given me loot. They're like, hey, don't shoot me. Like, I'm gonna help you out. And I've extracted of people that knew what they were doing. We've had some really fucking cool moments that I have when I played. And not only that, you can have some other moments where maybe you piss someone off and you talk trash, and then you get into a fight, and then the winner gets to have the bragging rights, right? It's just insane that they're killing their own presentation by dumbing down every aspect of an extraction shooter and in making it seem like it's meant for kids. The coloring. This right here looks like Roblox, and I played Roblox, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. This looks like it's made by made for Roblox. Like it's made for children.
So sick of this, by the way. This constant desire to soften and sanitize the edges of every gaming experience. This isn't making games safer. It's making them less interesting. The only thing that's safe about them is nobody's going to be playing them. In an extraction shooter, proximity chat isn't just flavor, it's function. It creates emergent, unforgettable moments.
I know I'm stopping. Again, this is a good point to point out, though, before I lose it. Even Fortnite has proximity chat. Even Fortnite has proximity chat. And there is nothing but kids, like a bunch of kids playing that game. Just let that sink in. Fortnite. Millions of players, children alike, and it has proximity chat.
Moments. I cannot tell you guys how many times I've run into another player while playing Escape from Tarkov, adrenaline pumping. We're awkwardly trying to negotiate a ceasefire. Maybe we part ways peacefully. Maybe we actually team up. Maybe we betray each other in the next 5 minutes. That tension, that unpredictability, that's what makes this genre. Bungie stripping it out in the name of safety shows that either they don't get it or they're too afraid to embrace it. Now, if that wasn't enough, and
They're
I
playing
really
too
love
safe.
this part. I love when these developers do this. But when fans were asking if the game would include more PvE-focused content, maybe offer some options down the road for players that want something more cooperative over competitive encounters, Bungie responded with everybody's favorite line, "This game isn't made for you." Telling fans of Destiny PvE that they don't recommend Marathon to them.
Yep.
Seriously, that's the message that you guys want to be sending to the Destiny community. The same people that have funded the game that you're making right now through years of support, expansions, and microtransactions that they purchased in Destiny 2. Bungie isn't just ignoring their core audience here. They are actively alienating them. It is baffling to me how many of these studios continue to make the...
What's even worse is that all the fucking Destiny 2 content creators are the one advertising it. What's even worse is that they did an ARG secret thing to build up hype. And who was hyping it up? Destiny players, the Destiny community. Who is this fucking game for?
Exact same mistake, treating genuine questions like they're nuisances instead of an opportunity. Maybe, just maybe, if Bungie was paying attention, they would realize that players generally like the idea of a PvE-focused experience where they can then take what they earn into a more high-stakes PvP mode. It's the one thing that players have been waiting for and they've been wanting to get from Tarkov, and arguably, Bungie has the better skill set to deliver. Imagine if having a co-op PvE exploration mode or narrative mode where you can go and build your wealth, skill, and arsenal, and then go and take that into an extraction mode where there's more risk, where there's more reward, where the challenge is even greater. Players want that. That sounds like a great game.
You know what's sad is that Tarkov does have a PvE experience. Not only does it have, here's the thing. It has the community-driven mod that you can download and do it, but they also have a paid PvE. Now, if Bungie isn't if they want to bring hype and if they don't want to put the work and effort into it, they should absolutely open up the door for mods for if you want to play offline or if you want to play with friend invites or whatever, or if you want to have your own server, like they could do what Battlefield does and sell servers. You can run your own server and run your own mods, and obviously it would have to meet terms and conditions and expectations. But they could really do like Forge, right? Halo. They created Forge. They could literally do that with Marathon. Say, hey, make your own PvE mode, mod, whatever, and we'll let it run until we make our own paid PvE. Like, it is crazy. It is so baffling to me that they have Forge under the belt as a creation, and they never use it. They never use it for Destiny, and they're probably never going to use it for Marathon. It's crazy to me that even just outside of Destiny and Bungie, we're to look at other game developers, that Skyrim survived and has lasted like a test of time because people are still making mods for that game. And I know it hurts their bottom dollar when it's cosmetic. Like, oh, well, then they'll never buy our junk in the Eververse store or whatever. That's why you just make it specifically, hey, our expectation is you can make maps, you can make, forged game modes, or you can make a PvE, but we're not allowing you to make like costumes. We're going to ban those. And they monitor their own game. I just don't understand.
That a lot of people would want to play. I do not understand how you miss a layup like this. Now you're sitting there saying to yourself, it just can't get any worse. LD, it can't get worse. Baby, it's 2025. Of course
this is Bungie.
Marathon, while only...
I'm gonna pause. When asking yourself, can things get worse? Remember, this is Bungie. When things have hit the fucking floor, Bungie is the pinnacle master at finding a way to go through that floor and find the next below floor.
Launching with 6 playable characters and 3 maps is not going to be free to play. It's a premium title. And not only will players have to pay up front, the game will also launch with battle passes, microtransactions, and premium content. Bungie said it would be a premium product, and through their official Marathon Twitter later then clarified, saying that it won't be full price and details will come later, likely pointing to Sony's strategy of pricing live service titles around $40 like Helldivers 2, Foam Stars, and Concord, noticing that Only one of those games survived. Now, I've seen a lot of people trying to defend this, and I got something to say to you, by the way. People making comparisons to Helldivers 2. You clearly haven't played it. That game earned its $40 price tag through ethical monetization.
I've not played it, but I've watched the gameplay, and it looks fucking good. I just don't... Yeah, I have to be wise with where I spend my time, because I barely play, like, Warframe, and I love Warframe, and I've spent hundreds of dollars in Warframe, but yeah, I still don't play enough to justify the amount of money I spend, but I don't feel bad, because I like Warframe.
And great gameplay. Every cosmetic, every battle pass, every microtransaction in Helldivers 2 can be earned through gameplay. Their battle passes don't expire. The grind is fair. Players feel respected. That's the key. Bungie, on the other hand, has one of the worst reputations in the entire industry for monetization. Between Destiny 2's constantly shifting economy, disappearing content, and overpriced cosmetics, there is no reason at all to believe that Marathon will offer anything close to the level of goodwill of Helldivers 2.
Absolutely.
Sony saw the success of Helldivers 2 and took the wrong lesson. They saw the price point, not the philosophy behind it. I guess at least we can say that Sony did learn one good lesson from Helldivers 2, and they will not be requiring players to have a PlayStation account on PC or Xbox to be able to play Marathon. So what's my take on all of this? Honestly, I like these kind of games. I genuinely do. I dig the aesthetic. The world looks really intriguing, and I know Bungie's gunplay is still some of the best in the business. With that said, I'm incredibly skeptical whether or not they can pull this off. I do not like the hero shooter angle. Those character designs look painfully weak. The gameplay looks painfully slow. They are charging a premium price. They are known for predatory monetization, and they are already making compromises on what makes this sort of game special. You guys,
I think that is very fair. That's probably like, if I were, we're talking about objective, that's probably the most objective you get between the harsh criticism and the overhype. I think that's fair. Everything he said, I think, is incredibly fair. If you want to say everything else people are saying is just noise that should be ignored, or everything else on the other side should be noise, like, this is very fair. Like, he likes the art, he acknowledges the good gunplay, but he has skepticism based on the history of Bungie, and I think that is a huge component that no one wants to talk about, especially content creators that glaze Bungie. They never, even in Destiny, they refuse to acknowledge the history of Bungie, and they are predatory. They don't respect your time. They don't respect the game that people have spent years playing. They don't even respect it currently. Like, a good example, we literally got new content called Quarter Blades, and a couple weeks later they introduced new content for the episode, and they already broke the new content. Like, I could go on. They have a history, and it's not a good one.
Guys are entering into one of the most competitive and unforgiving markets in this industry. The bodies of dead live service games stretch as high as the unemployment lines are long, and you're making a bet on a genre that has far more casualties than it does successes. But you guys think you can do it better. I feel like this is just another chapter in this industry's ongoing identity crisis. We've reached the tail end of the Battle Royale boom. These publishers are now scrambling, trying to figure out what comes next. Extraction shooters, to them, seem like the next big experiment, but I don't think they're it. They're just too niche for a broad audience, and broad audiences aren't what Bungie is trying to target. Most players are going to lean hard in either one side or the other, either PvE or PvP focused games. Forcing both of them together narrows that appeal, and any compromise that you're going to make to try to cater to one side or the other ultimately will ruin this game for everyone. Now,
I think a perfect example where it worked was Halo, when the original Halo. They had a single-player campaign, and it was great. You could play with friends. They introduced skulls. They introduced secret Easter eggs, and then you just had PvP. That was it. I think Destiny 2 is a perfect example where you try to overemphasize one and try to hold the other. Something that gets hurt in the process. Destiny, 80% of the game is PvE, and 20% is the PvP. And anyone that plays Destiny knows that PvP has always suffered. It has always suffered, and it will continue to suffer because it's hard to balance between a game that is heavily PvE leaning. In fact, it's such a problem that even Warframe had a PvP. They attempted it, and it's been pretty much abandoned. And they admit that's one of their biggest failures, is that they abandoned their PvP. It's because it's near impossible when you focus on PvE. And a game like Destiny is mostly PvE focused. And in order to make PvP work, you have to put time and effort. And as we've seen in the past history, Bungie can't balance that. They don't put the time, the funds. It's only until push comes to shove when the community is at their throat that they're like, hey, we're going to make a team specifically to help fix this problem, even though there should have been a team a long fucking time ago. And that's the mentality that people have when they're looking at Marathon. Like, you struggled to maintain PvP in this game. How are we going to trust you to do that for a game that is nothing but PvP?
That's not to say that Marathon can't find success, but I do think the kind of success that Bungie and Sony are banking on is a fantasy, especially if they're charging a premium price on top of battle passes and microtransactions. You're putting up a paywall around a game that lives or dies by player engagement.
Yep.
It makes no sense to me. You are actively pushing away the very people that might have just tried the game out of curiosity, people who might have liked it, stuck around, and maybe even brought their friends with them. Now, I realize this is going to be a relatively cold take, but I just do not see the logic in charging an upfront cost for something that is effectively a free-to-play model. When your business depends on keeping players around for the long term, the only thing that matters is how many people you can get in the door and how long you can keep them there.
And they advertise this as an arcade shooter or extraction shooter, and they're trying to focus the console. Well, first off, if this is not on Game Pass for free, that's an L. Secondly, that would mean that on Xbox, you have to pay an Xbox subscription online. And then you have to pay a PlayStation subscription. And then you have to pay for the game itself. There's already a wall. And then you're putting another wall in front of it. One Bungie can't control, which is this online subscription. That is just console generally. But then you're putting your own wall, which is keeping people like on console. Why would people play your game over Fortnite or Marvel Rivals or any other game that is free or on Game Pass? And that's the huge. Why would people give a shit and take a chance to spend $40 on a genre that really hasn't been on console? Why would they do that when they can just get free? That is tried and true. It's successful. People know about it. It is cemented itself. These things we can invest in. This one, not so sure.
I'm going to tell it to you guys straight. I think a lot of people are preaching platitudes when it comes to this game. I think that Sony spent $400 million on Concord. How much are they willing to spend on a Bungie live service title? I would guarantee there's some serious cash that flew into this. Not only that, but they spent $3 billion acquiring that company. They cannot afford for this game to be niche.
Nope.
But that's exactly what this game is going to be.
Exactly.
Because that's just what this genre is.
That's what does it. He's right. Marathon does it. It doesn't make sense. And people are like, the whole concept of people are saying, well, it's not meant for everyone. Like, let me look at. Here we have a Destiny, what used to be a Destiny content creator is known by gigs. Marathon isn't going to be a game for everyone, but that's okay. It shouldn't be. Marathon feels like a game built for me, the person who has loved Bungie PvP games for years and loves movement, plus high TTK. The discourse I'm seeing, seeing this is like crying over Elden Ring not having guns. And I don't understand what exactly, what do you mean? Marathon, this is the problem. Bungie and Sony had invested so much money into this. Like, it will absolutely hurt the company if they don't pick a wider audience. Like, this doesn't make sense. And even developers are saying it's not for everyone, but you want to get as many people as possible because this could be a do or die situation. We have seen the layoffs. And a good point that's being made here. The issue is that Marathon took massive resources away from Destiny. Imagine the developer of Elden Ring not releasing anything worthwhile content for 8 years while they're making Elden Ring FPSs. We got top 3 expansion to Final Shape. What you mean? This is what he means. There's a reason why these people didn't stay. It's because Bungie has stopped giving it love. Sure, they put a lot of love into one expansion, but all the other content has been breaking. The functionality of the game is breaking. And this is what I'm getting at. People are like, they're trying to ignore historical context. And I don't understand why we're acting like, oh, it's not that, it doesn't have to be for everyone, but it kind of does. Bungie needs as much money to justify not only Marathon's existence, But to Sony, Bungie needs to make enough money to justify its own existence.
Keep in mind, the Destiny 2 has not been financially viable, or at least not as profitable as Sony needed it to be when they purchased Bungie for that $3 billion. So, yeah, this can't be a niche game. It needs to be a breakout hit. They need it to be a Helldivers 2. They need it to be a Marvel Rivals or even something bigger than that, and maintain that speed.
It needed to be Fortnite.
Not just have it fall off after a week or two or something like that. This already looks like a high-risk gamble in a genre that just cannot compete with the kind of numbers that both Sony and Bungie are going to be looking for.
Which is funny because there are already people out there who are trying to say, don't worry. People are already looking at the game and you shouldn't be worried. So we have this comment saying, even if I'm interested in Marathon, I'm willing to give it a shot. The commentary around it has been incredibly negative. This has me super concerned about organic interest. Player pool at launch, given it's not free, and because all this, I'm also worried about Destiny. Then you have this content creator. I've seen seen takes like this a lot in the last couple of days. Let Bungie do the worrying and stop contributing to the negative dialogue. Worrying about a game longevity, especially before it makes borderline no sense. I want Marathon to succeed, but I'm not worried about it. And again, don't worry about longevity. The most brain dead take I will ever see about a paid product. If you are a consumer and you spend money on something, you should absolutely be concerned whether it will have longevity. No one wants to buy a game and play, then a week later the player base is dead. And then we actually have the legend himself, Tizzle. We brought a Toyota RAV4 strictly because they have a great history of longevity. Obviously not a perfect comparison, but when speaking about a live service game, longevity is crucial. Doesn't matter if they have big plans a year out, if it doesn't. And I think that's important. People don't want to invest in a game that they think is going to die. And so right now there's a lot of negative sentiment and reaction. And that's pretty much a good indication what to expect on launch, that there's going to be a lot of people who are not going to invest $40 or whatever price it's going to be because they don't want it to be dead the next week. Like, oh, great, I don't have that much disposable income. I personally do, but other people don't. They can't just throw out money because they have a family, or they've got college, or they have they work 2 jobs. They don't want to just throw out money to throw out money, and so they're going to be hesitant to buy it.
And you're already giving players plenty of reasons not to even try the game, let alone play it. I'm just saying try it or even be interested in it. $40 for a live service game with all of the trappings, no proximity chat. Yeah. What are you guys thinking? Who's making these decisions? Ironically, if I was a publisher and I wanted to make a profitable live service game.
By the way, I made a Pete joke. It's absolutely not Pete Parsons. This is pro. This is a perfect example where it's not leadership's choice. This is someone in the develop team, like the main developer leaders, made this choice. I guarantee you that Pete Parsons doesn't give a shit. Like, the CEO doesn't give a shit about proximity chat. He's not the one making those choices. It is some asshole dev in there. It's like, well, we got to make sure that everyone feels safe. Like, shut the fuck up. It's a video game. You're killing people.
You know what I would make? Destiny. But just not Destiny or Warframe. I think there is a general, genuine hunger from players that want an MMO-light action RPG experience that doesn't have players that have 10 years of experience in front of them. They want a even start. They want to be on the ground level with everybody else. And I think that the First Descendant showed that. I think that it also showed that if your game's not good, the players aren't going to stick around. But I think that showed a general hunger for something.
It was a perfect double-edged blade where it was like, you absolutely want it, and people jumped on it. Even I haven't played it like at least a season or so, and I'm not saying it's bad. The problem is that I need more beef for me to chew on. It was like buying like one of those chicken wings, except it being fat. It's like a little thin and you're chewing on it. Like, this is good, but I need a little beef. And so maybe in a year or so when I come back, if it's still going, it will have some beef for me to chew on. But for right now, it needs some time to cook.
In the live service market that isn't there right now, or at least players aren't seeing that's there. And for Marathon, I just don't see that same kind of draw.
No.
And I don't think I don't think this game is going to make its money back.
Nope.
I just don't see it happening. Now, with that said, I still think that this launch is going to be a big deal. Bungie's name still carries weight. We're talking about the people that made Halo and Destiny.
Yeah,
and for a
I'll
lot of
see about
people,
that.
that's all you're going to need. There are going to be people that are going to line up to buy this game just off of the name alone. Not a lot of people are involved in these kind of conversations. We saw the same kind of thing with Assassin's Creed Shadows, though we don't necessarily know exactly how profitable or how popular that game actually.
We can tell based on their shares, it wasn't very profitable, because then we would see we've seen some changes going on and there wasn't much.
Is, but it makes a lot of sense as to why people would be confused by the general discourse surrounding Marathon right now. They see the negativity, they see the identity politics and things like that, the heavy-handed criticisms, and they all look at it and ask, why are you rooting for something to fail that's not even out yet? And I think boiling down all that into toxicity and ideological hate misses the point entirely.
Bingo.
People do not trust Bungie, and
Bingo.
people do not trust Sony. And you're
Bingo.
putting them in the same room together. And that's not a good combination. That's not what players are looking for.
Bingo.
And I think that this game is going to show them, both of these companies are going to suffer the consequences of taking advantage of the very players that they need for this game to succeed. Trust has been a reoccurring theme in some of my recent videos, and Marathon might be the best case study yet that we've seen for what happens to a studio when it's burned through it entirely. What the media, publishers, developers, and even other players often miss out on.
Why does it seem like gamers and content creators want games to fail? The response I've seen on Delta Force Marathon is just sad. People haven't even played these games and call them shit dead on arrival. Why? Do you not want unique titles, games still to be good? Because you can smell the bullshit in the air.
It's not just the tone that matters when it comes to criticism, it's the source. Where is all of this unrest coming from? As a studio,
people
your
are tired of
foundation
shitty games.
for your next game should be the players that you already have.
You want to know why people are wanting things to fail? They're not wanting to fail. They're getting better at assessing the value at a glance, at a gameplay reveal. They can tell by the tone of something whether it is genuine or if it's not. There's a reason why you have Baldur's Gate and Elden Ring succeeding versus Suicide Squad and Concord. Gamers have been forced to eat shit for quite a while. And this is the pushback. And I think it's completely fair. In fact, I love it because the consumer is putting the pressure on developers to not make half-assed, half-cooked, unwanted bullshit that no one wants, and to focus on the pinpoint, what do people really want? I think it is immaculate. I think this is the best time to be a gamer because people are getting smart enough to push back on the bullshit. We are tired of eating shit, and we want the gold. We want Baldur's Gate. We want Elden Rings. We want more than one Elden Ring, that's for sure. We want that success, and we praise the success. We want more Power World. Hell, their Schedule 1 is a successful indie game made by one dude, and you're just making drugs. And yet you have games like Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is fucking failing. They can't even showcase how much money they made because they showcase how many people are playing it, but they're not telling you how many codes they gave out, and their shares and stocks are still plummeting, which tells me they're not really making enough money. And you have other games like Veilguard, which was Dragon's Age Veilguard, which wasn't made for the people who like that because it's just weird cartoonish bastardization of it, which at least that's the cliff notes that I've got from people who've ever talked about it and what I've seen. But the point is, this is the pushback that gamers are doing, and I think it's phenomenal because it's going to force developers to stop making shitty games, to stop them from making shit no one wants, to stop them from playing safe. Because this mediocre, half-baked shit, no one fucking wants. They want you to be innovative. They want you to reach for the skies. Stop being a fucking coward. You're going to fail sometimes. What you guaranteed to fail is half-ass safery stuff that no one wants. Literally, and what's even worse is that you have game developers that don't stick to the bacon. They have the golden goose, but they decide, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. I'm going to do this and do my own vision. Who are you fucking making games for? Who fucking cares about your vision? People want to buy the shit that you sell. People want Halo. Why are you changing the formula for that? Destiny. No, why are you changing the formula? Continue to make the shit that you're good at. Stop trying to make things. It's like, it's just like, was it BioWare that made? No. People are going to fry me because I don't remember. The company that made Arkham Knight and the Batman series versus Suicide Squad. Why make something that is not your golden goose? Why throw that into the dumpster to make something completely different? Who gives a shit about your desire and your vision? You make a product. It's like if Lamborghini decided, we're not going to make Lamborghinis the way they are anymore. We're going to make this cute little, beep, beep car. We're going to make this cute little thing because we want to mix it up. Bitch, sell me a goddamn Lamborghini the way you usually do. It's like, I don't understand why people feel like they have to do their own thing when their job is to sell a product that the consumer and the market wants. And when you don't do that, the market says, I don't like that, and they don't buy it. They don't consume it, and they get angry that you decided to make something that they didn't want in the first place. It's like McDonald's, suddenly the big old boys that love their McNuggets and their McLovin' It sandwiches, and then suddenly they decided to sell pizza instead. I didn't come to McDonald's for pizza. I go to Pizza Hut if I want that. I think you understand. It's hard not to get passionate about this because people are so brain dead trying to defend the developers and companies. Like, you should give them a chance. No, fuck you. Stop making shit no one wants.
You build trust with them. You reward their loyalty. You grow from there. You do not abandon them to go chase an audience that you never even had.
Exactly.
Especially when that audience that you do have is already skeptical. But that's exactly what Bungie is doing here, because I don't think that Destiny players want Marathon, and I don't think the outsiders looking in are any more convinced after seeing how Bungie treats its own customers and their staff. They have turned their reputation into a currency, and they've spent all of it. Sure, some criticisms may be hyperbolic, and yeah, in today's political climate, it's easy to fall back on ideological explanations, but let's set all of that aside for a second. Look at what's actually going on here. Let's look at the history here.
Yeah.
Look at Destiny 2. Why would anyone trust Bungie? Why would anyone want to get excited for their next game? Destiny 2 brought with it a slow, relentless shift into predatory monetization.
Holy shit, people don't remember this. Bungie actually was the stealthy piece of shit with this.
In-game rewards were stripped away and moved into the Eververse store. Then came content vaulting, an entire expansion that players had paid for.
I told you! People will never forget it. It is stained on their dead. It will be on every Bungie employee's tombstone. This will be on every Bungie tombstone.
Removed from the game, no refunds, no apologies, no real benefit for the players. Then they started sunsetting weapons that players had grinded for, invalidating progress, all in the name of balance, only for them to reverse course on that later. Then Sony bought them for $3.6 billion. Players were promised. They were told that things would get better, more transparency, faster content, better communication. Instead, monetization got worse, content got buggier, and the development cycle slowed to a crawl. Then came the layoffs. Sony started gutting the studio.
How is it that someone that isn't probably a Destiny player has done more research on the community that fucking wants to just do this? What? Destiny's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. And I said for several years, like this is like the second, third year, whatever, where I have pointed out that it's not the car, it's the driver. The driver sucks ass.
Studio cutting narrative leads and veteran developers, the same people who built what fans loved, were then tossed aside. Reports of crunch, discrimination, and a toxic workplace then followed. Lawsuits then after that, all coming from a studio that constantly paraded around its progressive values in public, but apparently all for nothing. And after all of that, what do players get? They got Lightfall, a broken, bloated, recycled expansion that felt more like filler and cost the same as a full-price title. You know, let's not forget that this is the same Bungie that charges $150 for a free-to-play game, though Steam estimates it'll cost.
Yes, when someone asks you, is Destiny free to play? Show them this. Is it free to play? I can't tell.
cost you over $450 if it's not all in a bundle for Destiny 2. There are battle passes, paid dungeons, cosmetic bundles, event cards, paywalled expansions, and a $60 expansion cycle. While it definitely seems that the game's latest expansion was received well, why would players be excited for anything that Bungie then puts out after this? They don't trust them, and frankly, they shouldn't. There's no loyalty.
Just a gentle reminder. Just a gentle reminder of Destiny currently.
Loyalty left, no goodwill, just the appearance of a studio that's looking for new ways to squeeze the last few dollars out of whoever's left around. This is one of the reasons why they keep losing players. And when you treat
boy, if you want to piss off a Bungie ball fondler or shill, show them this and they will get triggered. I guarantee we're going to have like 5 people in the comment section triggered by this.
players like disposable wallets,
let's be honest, they already left the video from the very first 4 minutes.
You can't be surprised when they treat your next project like a joke. Bungie and Sony are gambling with their franchises, betting everything on growth, on shareholder satisfaction, on live service revenue, but you don't build trust by gambling. You build it with respect.
Yeah.
And right now, that respect is gone. And look, I get it. I know that the discourse around games has gotten more toxic, but so has the way that players have been treated. Studios are demanding more money, offering less value, and when players push back, they're dismissed, they're mocked, they're told that this game isn't made for you. This isn't about ideology. This is the direct result of corporate bloat, of chasing endless growth in an industry that's already overextended. Eventually, you're going to hit a ceiling. You're going to outpace your own audience. And when you can't pull in any more players, the only thing that's left to do is to bleed the ones that you already have dry. How can you blame these players for being skeptical or negative when they're treated this way? I mean, if we take the time to look at all these criticisms through a lens of distrust, it all starts to make sense. Take Marathon's character designs. I personally do not find them appealing. Nothing about them really grabs me, but I do understand what Bungie is going for here. This is a transhumanist universe where people have just given up on humanity. Think Cyberpunk 2077, but another 800 years later. These people have cycled through death and rebirth until the point that they don't even know who they are anymore. These characters aren't supposed to look human, masculine, or feminine because canonically, they've lost touch with that. And this is the point that I think a lot of people miss, is that nuance is lost on a skeptical audience. They are not going to assume the best. They're going to assume.
By the way, I understand. I don't agree that's good enough to justify some of the appeal, but he makes a very well-balanced argument for why it makes sense.
The worst. I've seen the accusations, the backlash about androgyny, the character designs, the questions about who's leading the project. Some of it is ideological, sure, without a doubt, but all of it? No.
Yeah.
I don't think it's all about gender or identity. I think it's about trust. Players have been watching, and they've been seeing this song and dance play out for years now. We've watched as countless studios have injected gender ideology as a smokescreen for weak design, for shallow writing. Players have been treated like they're problems that need to be fixed and educated, and now they're just going to assume the worst. When you break your bond with your community, when you break that trust that you had with them, even the thoughtful, creative choices that you make are going to get viewed through a lens of suspicion. That's the cost of cashing in on your reputation. That's the cost of breaking your trust. And Marathon is about to show the entire industry just how expensive that cost truly is. I want to illustrate this for you guys because I want people to really understand this. If we change the context of this conversation entirely, we look at a game like Elden Ring or any From Software title, really, these games are drenched in body horror, divine transformation, and identity.
There is a lot of weirdness in these games, and people love it.
Collapse, characters that are mutating into gods, into beasts, into nothing at all in some cases. While there is clearly masculine and feminine figures within their narratives, the overwhelming aesthetic in these games is androgynous, grotesque, and symbolic more than anything else. Even their character creator uses body type A and body type B rather than traditional gendered language, and yet no outrage, no mass backlash, no claims of agenda.
I mean, I think isn't the final boss of Elden Ring, like one of them, like the DLC, a femboy or something like that. He's like, it's supposed to, it looks like a girl, but it's a boy. Like, it's like, okay, no one really cares about that, or at least I've not seen anyone talk about it like they cared. It's because the game is good.
Or people that are trying to dissect screenshots frame by frame. Well, I guess in some cases with America. But why is this? It's because the audience trusts from software. I genuinely feel like this is
True.
what so many people in the industry fail to understand. The backlash rarely starts from the content itself. It almost always starts from the studio behind it. When players feel respected, when they feel like they can trust the developer's intentions, they're not going to be looking for reasons to criticize. They're invested. They want to believe. They want that game to succeed. But when that studio squanders that trust, players will scrutinize everything. They will attack everything because they are waiting to get burned again.
Yep.
I don't understand how industry veterans and writers are missing out on such an obvious shift in priorities from some of the most successful studios in this industry. Look at the studios that are out there that are earning goodwill right now. Larian Studios dropped one of the best RPGs that we've seen in years in Baldur's Gate 3. They sold it at a fair price.
Isn't it funny that I went on an entire rant before this, and he's bar for bar pointing out everything I said?
Packed it full of content, no microtransactions, no season passes, no DLC. Even when fans were begging for more content, what did Larian do? They added it for free. They refused to monetize their player trust. From software, right now, they're making Elden Ring Night Rain. Fully multiplayer focused game, no cash shop, no battle passes or microtransactions.
Wow.
Hello Games has spent years now making No Man's Sky, adding more and more content to it. Even
there has been a lot of free content. Granted, it had a shitty release on No Man's Sky, but afterward, not only did they do a lot of free content, but the paid content is worth every buck. I want to play that game, but it's so expansive that it's just like Destiny, where I'm like, I don't even know where to start.
when players are begging to give them money, they are dropping massive updates for free, transforming it into something that players actually love. The result? Trust, loyalty, excitement. These studios, when they go to announce their next project, these players aren't going to question it. They're not going to brace themselves for disappointment. They are ready to believe. They want to believe it's going to be great. That's the difference. These developers understand that their audience isn't something to be manipulated. It's something to be.
Can I just talk about, like, this is supposed to be a drop ship. It looks like shit. Like, if you play Destiny, you have the different enemy ships that are very noticeable, very, eye appealing. Halo, you had the Covenant drop ships. Then you have, it looks like it's a flying dumpster. It looks like a flying dumpster. I know I'm like nitpicking now, and he's completely off topic, but I just noticed this gameplay I haven't seen before. It looks like a giant dumpster dropping people off.
Earned. Now, this may come as a surprise to you guys, but a lot of people from the industry watch these videos. I get a lot of feedback from developers. Hell, I just recently talked to a CEO. You guys are going to be hearing more on that later this week.
Okay.
But if you work for Bungie and you found this video for whatever reason, know that this isn't out of bad faith or anything like that. This is just genuine criticism, and I'm being realistic about the position that you guys are in. And you have to do something about that. I don't know how you're going to. The clock is ticking. The game releases in September, and you have to somehow undo what's been done. You have to somehow regain player trust for a new game, and I just personally don't think that's going to happen. Not with what these players, not with what Destiny players have been subjected to over the years. Bungie, in my eyes, is the ultimate betrayal for gamers. We're talking about a company that has always been on the cutting edge of game design. Some of the best shooters that are out there, some of the best memories that they've created for players worldwide. Yet at the exact same time, they are the least ethical studio, in my eyes, in the entire industry.
Absolutely.
And it's not even close. I've never seen players treated the way that Destiny players have been treated. I'm one of them.
Wait, he does play? Bro, legend. Dude, I thought you weren't a Destiny player. Dude, that was very, that was very well scripted. He didn't come off as a Destiny player. Like, it was very well bounced.
I'm never going to forgive you for taking away content that I paid for without asking.
Hallelujah.
And, I realize that the people to blame aren't necessarily the folks that are sitting at the desks that are working on these games. I guarantee there are some hardworking people that are working on Marathon right now, and to be honest with you, they don't deserve what's coming their way.
Ooh,
You know who does? Well, the guy that's been spending money like crazy, the one that has $2 million worth of classic cars in his garage, and also on top of that, the company that spent $3 billion on that company. They're the problem in this situation.
I disagree. There are people. I guarantee you, Pete Parsons doesn't give a shit about proximity or the art design. Now, could you argue that he's rushing it because Sony's on his ass? We can make that argument. but there are real developers and leaders in that company that are making these choices. But the trust definitely is rooted from the top.
For the ones that need to figure something out. I'm going to tell it to you guys straight. I don't think that Marathon is going to flop the same way that Concord did.
I don't think so either.
I think that there's enough brand recognition, enough power. It's way more distinct. It looks cool.
I think there's going to be enough content creators who are going to suck the sloppy toppy off of Bungie because that's their revenue, that they're going to pull enough people from their community to make it. The worst case scenario, it becomes Halo Infinite. And Halo Infinite is just literally on life support. And I think that's like the worst case scenario.
In general, I think people will give it a shot. Some people will give it a shot. But ultimately, looking at the kind of money that they need to make, keep in mind, Destiny 2 is not making the money that Sony needs
Absolutely not.
Bungie to be making.
Nope.
They thought Destiny 2 was going to make more money than it did, and it's just consistently lost players almost year after year after year. And if this game comes out and does not meet the expectations of Sony, it's going to suffer the same fate as Concord. They're going to look at the studio. They're going to think about, hey, what's the cheapest way that we can continue to run Destiny 2 and make it profitable, and then just gut the rest of the studio. Use it as a support or whatever it might be, or probably just lay off everybody, to be honest with you. That's just been the trend that this industry has been going in lately. But that's what I foresee. I just don't see it making the money that this company is probably expecting this game to make. Unless they have a bunch of other projects they plan on doing, but I don't think that's the case. Who knows? Maybe I'll be proven wrong. Maybe they make some big changes. Maybe there's some finishing touches they add before the game. Maybe they delay it for a little bit and they give it a little bit of extra love that makes it a little...
They've already given a release date, and they're not going to delay it because of Grand Theft Auto. Also, I do not believe that they're going to do dramatic changes necessary within 6 months. I don't believe it.
A bit more interesting for players. I don't know, maybe there is a incredibly broad audience that's out there that is looking for a streamlined extraction shooter experience, and this game is going to fit right into it, and it's just going to blow up. Personally, that sounds like a bit of a fantasy to me, but I guess we'll see. I've been proven wrong in the past. I'm not going to pretend like I'm infallible, not by any means, but yeah, I hope the game is good. I don't really necessarily want to see it fail because it does have a lot of things that interest me. And if it's fun and it's interesting, then I'm going to enjoy the game. That's basically how I've felt with most of these games that come out. I'm never going to necessarily pray for a game to fail, companies to fail. That's a completely different story. But games...
Absolutely, Bungie can fail.
Themselves, not necessarily, because, I like having good games to play. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, make sure you guys subscribe.
Yep. Hit that like button, subscribe, this account, I'm not subscribed it. I'll subscribe to this and give it a like. This is like an hour-long video, and it took literally 40 minutes of me talking about it. But it is so nice to hear people talk about the same things as me. And I think you could argue that I'm a little bit more harsher. And one thing that I would like to do, Tesla, owie, you're hurting me. Baby girl, I love you. Kitty on my lap. One thing I wish I would like to do, and it would require me to maybe take more time to sit. I like how he has his cat right there. My cat's like right here too. Say hello, Tezita, baby girl. One thing I would like to do is, like, obviously he sometimes has longer videos, sometimes he has shorter videos, but he does definitely does focus very cleanly, and he goes ABC, and he gives very objective, subjective views. Like, I think the number one issue is trust, but there's no trust in that company. And two is that the extraction shooter is going to be a mountain for them to climb. Those are two things that are going to hold it back. Everything else is extra. Like the people who are upset that it looks like it's not sexy enough, or it's too watered down. Like, there's so many extra things compounding it that I do believe it's not going to hit the mark. I think it's already cemented in stone that it's not going to hit the mark. I think it's a guaranteed bottom tee that it's not going to hit the mark that Sony wants it. Now, whether it still does well, that's a different story. But I guarantee it's not going to meet the expectations that Sony needs it to meet to justify the money spent to make the game, but also to justify the $3.7 billion that was invested into Bungie, and not just to purchase them, but anything extra that PlayStation has or Sony has done to support Marathon in any of Bungie's projects. It is so refreshing to hear other people who maybe you could argue paints things at a better brush than I do. Obviously, he's a streamer, content creator. I've got years to not years, but I've got months of experience, and so I got a long way to really perfect it. I'm trying. I know a lot of people, if you made it to the end, one of the things you prefer me to do is probably not make hour-long videos, which could just be podcasts. People have just asked me to make podcasts, and they listen to it while they're driving. At this point, if you made it to the end, you're just here for the podcast. So shout out to you and your cars. But are you still there? Do you have your radio on, or are you around other people? That's right, you're driving. You got my voice blasting in the background and people are driving past you. Sex. Okay, there you go. Now people are going to be wondering, like, what? There's nothing that gets people's attention more than someone randomly shouting sex. I'm Mr. Gaming Counselor. Hit the like button, comment down below, subscribe to the channel for more. And hey, let all the people who are now looking at you because they just heard this random thing from your radio, tell them to subscribe to the channel as well. Until next time.